Welcome to Talk to Me Like I'm an Idiot. I'm your host, Angie McMahon. On this show, I interview people about jobs and topics I know nothing about. You can find us on all your favorite social sites at Idiot Talk Show. You can also use that hashtag to keep up with the conversation. Don't forget to tell a friend. Now, let's start the show.
I don't want to be alone in this bed. Won't you give me something I can take apart? I don't want to listen to the yelling in my head or the crying in my idiot heart. Idiot heart.
So excited to have on the show today. He is the chief editor of Performing magazine, as well as has a travel blog and podcast. Please welcome Mr. Jason Epperson.
Hello.
Hello. So you are out and about right now.
I am. I'm actually staying at a relative's house at the moment, but I travel the country full time, and I'm in Oklahoma City at the moment. I just took Route 66 from LA, stopping at a whole lot of cool stuff on the way, and heading back up towards Chicago on Route 66. So hopefully completing it here in the next couple months.
I did that for my honeymoon. We did Route 66.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my husband liked it more than me. So I forgot to start. I always like to start the show at how do we know each other? I'm the idiot, so you tell me.
I actually don't know where we first met, but we both know each other because we're in the theater industry in Chicago, and I've seen your work, and I don't know if you've seen anything I've worked on.
Well, we first met because we're both alumni at Columbia College.
Right.
And so Bill Williams asked us each to be on panels at Columbia to talk to students. Right. So we've done like 3 panels together.
Right. But we weren't at Columbia at the same time, right?
No. I graduated in 98.
Yeah, you graduated just before I started.
Oh, okay. So you're younger than me?
Sorry.
Yeah. So I graduated in 98, and then I kind of went on the path of Second City and all of that. Comedy, the slums of Chicago theater. But you have a travel podcast. What is that first?
So I have 2 travel podcasts, actually. I have one called RV Miles, which is an RV travel podcast, since I full-time RV with my wife and children. Podcast is only with my wife, not my children. And that's sort of a sort of news and information about traveling the country. And then I have a national parks podcast.
What's it called? Plug it.
It's called RV Miles, and the website is rvmiles.com.
Okay.
And then I have the America's National Parks podcast as well, which covers it's sort of a narrative style show where we do stories behind the national parks. And as we travel across the country, we find sort of interesting stories that we might like to tell on the podcast. And it's a lot of fun.
And what's that one called?
So that's the America's National Parks podcast. It's nationalparkpodcast.com.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you just a bunch of dumb questions. I don't know anything about traveling or RVs or any of this. So the first dumb question is, like you said, you travel full time, and you have kids. Are they in school? Are they school age kids?
They are, or at least 2 of them are. So we homeschool. We call it road schooling.
Okay.
And that's what we do. When I lived in Chicago full time, and I'm still in Chicago maybe 3 or 4 months out of the year. But when I lived in Chicago full time, in order to sort of pay for our lifestyle, I was working 2 full-time jobs, and I wasn't seeing my kids. So we decided to do this thing where we bought a used school bus, and we turned it into an RV. I spent about a year building it out, and it's just like any other recreational vehicle. It's got a bathroom, a kitchen, and bedrooms and bunks for the kids and everything. And about a year and a half ago, we set out on the road and have been traveling ever since.
Have you always loved to travel, or was this something where you were like, I'm just going to pick up and travel? Let's
I
do
have
something different.
I have always loved to travel, but I've never done a lot of travel. Um, because the theater industry, the time commitments were always so challenging, especially when I was the managing director or the executive director at a couple different theaters in Chicago. There was no vacation time. There was no option for
And you
like
were
going away for 2 weeks,
you were also like the technical director at Columbia for a while, right?
Yeah, so that was my other full-time job. I was actually um, I was the assistant production manager and then became the head of technical theater, and taught stage management and stuff like that. So I was teaching and running the Mercury Theater and then the Greenhouse Theater for a while, and was never home. So now I'm with my kids 24 hours a day, which has its own challenges.
I can imagine.
But
How many kids do you have?
I have three.
Three.
They are 4, 7, and 10.
Oh, okay. I have
Yeah,
two.
yeah,
I have a teenager and a 7-year-old. So I gave them
yeah.
complete childhoods.
But
Put
the
them.
thing with homeschooling kids, or road schooling as we call it, is I have one son with some learning disabilities,
Mhm.
and we're able to sort of tailor their schooling however we want to and however they want to.
Mm.
We do very much child-led type learning, and it's not like the kids we're teaching them for 7 hours a day. It doesn't take as long to homeschool as it does for a teacher to teach 36 kids in a classroom.
I feel like
So we're
I want to ask you some dumb questions. Like my thoughts on homeschooling, like my limited knowledge of homeschooling
hmm
is I have like one really good friend who swears by it. He's homeschooled both his kids and he's in associations and they go meet other homeschool kids and do events and things like that. The impression that I get from the any homeschool parents that I've met through him is like it's just kind of hippie free for all. You just like walk around the world and explore and learn and like the world teaches you. Like, is that kind of it?
I'll admit there's a big element to it that is that for us. Different homeschoolers work in different ways. Some follow a really strict regimented curriculum that they buy, and is put together by educators. Some states have homeschool curriculums that you can use as well. Um, we do sort of a mix. We don't do one specific curriculum. A lot of the specific curriculums are very religious based,
Mm.
and we're really not into that for schooling. So we do.
And no law can really get you because you're all over the place.
Right, right. Well, Illinois is one of the, since we are technically residents of Illinois, even though we don't have a specific residence. Illinois is one of the best states to homeschool in because there really are no laws. It's do whatever the heck you want. Some states have testing, some states don't. Some states you have to declare. Illinois, you don't have to do much of anything. So we do different curriculums for different types of things. Like we have one for math and and uh, and then we do some stuff on our own, like science and of course the natural world uh, learning they're getting by visiting all the cool places that we go to on the way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So so now you're just like man about town. You get to travel the world.
Yeah.
Um, but also like you are an editor of an online magazine.
Yeah. So we have Performing in Chicago, which is it's a 30-year-old brand that we sort of revived, and we're very busy with that. And it is theater industry news and reviews and things like that. We've also launched Performing in Kansas City, which is where my wife is
Ooh.
originally from, and we're working on spreading it around the country. And that's part of why we did this, is we're going to be launching it in other cities as well. And then we have we have the 2 podcasts and the RV Miles website, which is also sort of a news magazine blog type website, similar to Performing in a lot of ways. So all of that stuff, yeah, keeps us quite busy. My wife does the majority of Performing, and I do the majority of everything else. But we're working, we're working full time on the road. It's not like you're just traveling around and get to do whatever. We're on vacation all the time. We're busy on the computers for most of the day, every day, and
I would think that's a lot of like entrepreneurial business to keep afloat while you're also trying to like raise the kids and like not
yeah.
die and all that.
But sometimes, sometimes we're sitting in a hammock underneath a mountain, out in the wilderness and working. So that's cool.
Yeah. So what? Oh my cat just lost his mind. What you've been, so how many national parks have you been to?
Well, I guess we have probably been to at least 30 different National Park Service sites in the last year and a half.
How many are there?
There are, it depends on what you consider a national park. So
I consider whatever you tell me right now.
So this is the sort of the first thing that people don't really know about national parks is that the National Park Service operates over 400 different units, and they consider them all national parks. There are the 60 big national parks that just have national park in the name, but then there are national monuments and national battlefields and national trails, all kinds of different things that are underneath the National Park Service that they consider to be parks as well. And some are bigger. Some national monuments are much bigger than some of the national parks out there. People, when they hear the word national monument, a lot of people think it's sort of like
a big statue.
A statue, a monolithic thing that represents something. But that's not at all what a national monument is. A national monument is just a piece of land that was set aside by a president. The difference between a national park and a national monument is presidents set aside national monuments and Congress sets aside national parks.
Oh.
And
where's Trump gonna put his little park?
Well,
his monument.
He's been reducing national monuments and selling them off to
the Russians,
to the oil industry. But that's besides the point. Yeah. So some national monuments can be, millions of acres. And some national parks, like the smallest national park is the newest national park, is the Gateway Arch National Park, which includes the Arch and the old courthouse in downtown St. Louis.
Yeah.
Which many people would consider a monument.
Side note, the last time I went to probably the last time and I think the only time I went to St. Louis, we went to the City Museum, which is like this giant, crazy, like 7-story museum that has like a bus on top, and like the kids can like crawl in like tiny places where they definitely can get stuck, and it's super dangerous. But they have this circus that performs inside, like a flea circus or whatever. But they also set off fireworks inside during this circus every time, and the museum set on fire while we were there, and we all had to evacuate. And my 7-year-old will not get over it. She's like,
remember you posting about that on Facebook. Actually,
it was bananas.
Because I had just recently been there as well, and it's a really cool place, but it does seem like a giant death trap.
Oh yeah. I was like, why do we think it's a good idea to set off fireworks inside? Do we do this every day? Like, was today special? This seems terrible. The 7-year-old will not get over it. She's like, remember we were at the museum and it set on fire? I actually had to tell her there's never been a fire in Chicago. That's what I told her. She believes that. I was like, it's not a big deal. There's never been a fire in Chicago.
Never. Especially not famous ones. No.
So like, I'm assuming 4th grade is when we're going to have to deal with that, but.
Right.
So national monuments.
Yeah.
and national parks. And then what is the
Yeah.
other little guy, the littler ones?
So then there are national historic sites. Uh, which could be like a president's home or a
You
um,
serious, Kat? Oh my God.
or like where the Wright brothers flew their first flight. That's a national historic site. National battlefields where a lot of Civil War battles took place for the most part. Um, but those are all. Oh, and there's national rivers as well. So sections of rivers can be considered a national river. Then there's also the national wild and scenic rivers, which is somehow different. The whole naming system is very weird and convoluted, and gets people very confused, and really needs to be repaired, because the names really mean absolutely nothing. It's just whatever somebody decided to use for that particular site.
So if I just wanted to like cut off like my backyard and be like, this is the national
Right.
Chicago backyard, like this is the national Chicago backyard, what would I have to do to like make that happen?
Well, you still would need an act of Congress or the president to declare
The
it.
president
That
would totally do that if I asked him. I feel like he'd be like, sure, go ahead.
that's what differentiates. So a national monument is declared by the president. All of those other different sites are declared by Congress, and a lot of national monuments end up becoming a national park or a historic site or whatever. There's really no difference in the way they're managed within the National Park Service, other than the fact that now we're dealing with the idea that a president could maybe reduce monuments, which has never happened before. But all of a sudden, we're going through this process where a president is trying to reduce some of the sizes of national monuments, because it is felt it is felt by a lot of conservatives that President Obama overstepped his bounds by making too many and too large of national monuments in order to protect some natural areas from gas and oil interests, which he did that. Whether it's true that he overstepped his bounds or not, he has the legal right to do that. It is up for debate, but there's the feeling that there are all these lands that are available with all these resources that are no longer available anymore, and so that's why they're trying to reduce some of them, unfortunately, because they are beautiful places.
Is so you're saying the president is doing this and he's selling this off to oil interests and things like that? He's selling off not selling, like giving away?
Well, what they're doing, what the White House is doing, is saying there is this big maintenance backlog in the National Park Service. The number goes as high as $12 billion that people throw out there. The real number seems to be more like $3 billion. But anyway, it's one of those things. This maintenance backlog is one of those things like the NEA that gets sparred about between conservatives and liberals, even though it's not a ton of money. It's just one of those things that conservatives often find not important to pay for, and liberals find really important. So what they're doing is saying, okay, we're going to pay for this maintenance backlog. We're going to cover it by getting rid of some of the national monument land and leasing it to oil and gas interests, and using the money from those leases to pay for the backlog. Even though the backlog is only worth like 50 cents a person in this country. $1 billion here, $1 billion there doesn't sound like a lot of money, or sounds like a lot of money, yeah. But when you spread it out across everybody, it's not. And the backlog is overinflated to continue this fight. So what they do is they add in things like road maintenance. So there's the Blue Ridge Parkway is like 400 miles long, and it's a federal highway. but it's administered by the National Park Service because it's historic.
Hmm.
So they say, okay, well, that is now part of the maintenance backlog of the National Park Service, even though it should be paid with road and highway funds.
Right.
But that's like a third. That is like a third of this big backlog that politicians fight over. So the national parks are really hotly politicized thing, and we're dealing with a president who is coming in with the idea that he's, going to completely ignore some of the way that things have been traditionally done and say, well, I can get rid of that national monument if a president can create one. So there are legal challenges in court, and we'll find out if he actually does have the legal right to do that or not. Nobody is really sure.
Yeah, that's kind of feels like that's everything in the news. Like, is he allowed to do that?
Like,
and it's like, well, nobody's ever tried to do it.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, he can, I think. Maybe not. Like, he's never,
yeah.
I don't know. That feels like the whole
like
narrative.
Everything else, it's like he'll do it, and then there'll be a court battle to figure out whether it's legal or not.
Yeah.
So,
that's
there you go.
Amazing. So, okay, so here, I honestly, like, my brain goes national park. Like, we were planning our summer vacation, and my husband likes to look at scenery, and I'm like, trees. I've seen them. And he was like, let's go to like Yellowstone. And I'm like, what are we going to do there? Like, are we just going to walk around? Because I don't like exercising. I don't want to just walk around and look at trees. Like, why do people go to these places? What is there? There's not a Ferris wheel. Like, we're not like partying down. Like, what are we doing?
A lot of people go to them to look at trees.
Yes. That's what I thought.
That said, a lot of the national parks there's such a very difference between the parks that are there for that are protected for their beauty, and then the historic sites that you can go and learn about history. So there is something for a lot of different people, but also, if you go to a national park, so we were just at Zion National Park a few weeks ago in southern Utah, and it's like the third most popular national park. And, these places like Zion and Yellowstone are places where you can go and see something you can't see anywhere else on Earth. If you go to Yellowstone, you're going to see geysers, and you're not going to find that many geysers anywhere. Pretty much nowhere. And there's also mountain ranges, and you're going to see buffalo walking across the street, and that's rare, and that kind of stuff. Zion, you drive up through a giant canyon, and you see these giant red cliff walls that are 3 times the height of the Sears Tower or the Willis Tower.
I don't know that it's called
ignore
anymore.
it as.
I think we're selling it again. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, the Hancock building is being sold now, so that's going to be called something else. But literally 3 times the height of that, and you're standing at the bottom of it, and it raises up and you can see people climbing it, and it's a sheer cliff face, and they do a 2-day climb up it, and they camp overnight hanging on the side of the cliff face.
Wow.
In like a bag tent thing that hangs from ropes.
Oh.
So you get to see these cool, weird things that you won't see anywhere else. So a lot of it is about seeing weird and crazy stuff. But for those people like you that want some more to do, like most of these places you can drive to some of the beautiful stuff. You might you might have to take like a 1/4-mile hike off of the road to go see something. But most of these places are also, because of the popularity of a national park, have sort of a resort town built next to them.
Nice.
So, you can go and party and drink and eat.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not worried about like going to the park and getting trashed. Like, I'm a little old for that, but at the same time, like,
have like a craft beer in a mountain town in Colorado. That's coI
remember, like, we have my husband's sister and brother-in-law live in Seattle, And when we went to go visit them, they were like, let's go on a hike. And I was like, that sounds terrible. Like, I don't want to do that at all. And they were like, it's so beautiful. I was like, is it? Like, I've been to Chicago's Forest Preserve. I feel like I know what a tree looks like. And like, they were so insistent that we go see these beautiful sights. And they took us to like a hill where we were like standing on the top of the hill. And it wasn't like a mountain. It was like a hill. And we're standing on the top of the hill and we're looking out on like a pier of like boats. And I was like, we have this at our house. Like, we have this. We live real close to one of these. Like, why are you making me do this? And I just became like a person that is like, fuck you, nature. Like, I don't want you. Like, it just, so like, I want to know, like, why do people love it? Like, I want to love it. I want to be that guy that's like, let's go on a hike and look at trees.
Well, I mean, I think you're stuck on trees a little bit here.
Fair.
Because
Fair.
there are
My
more
only
things
knowledge
than trees.
is trees.
Like, you could go see giant trees. Like, that's cool. You go to California and see trees that, you know, you can drive through.
Yeah.
But a lot of the scenery that you're going to see out there is rock formations and mountains. And like, you can go to Arches National Park where you can see freestanding rock arches. They're really cool. I mean, they don't even look like nature could have created them. Like, they look like somebody had to have carved them. And you can go up to, for me, a lot of it's about seeing animals. Okay. I really love seeing animals in the wild, like seeing a bear, seeing a bison, seeing deer. When we were in Zion, we're walking on some of these trails, and these mule deer, which are deer that have like these big dog ears, they would walk within like 5 feet of you. Like, they didn't care that you were there whatsoever. And they're just like kind of wandering like, by.
This wild animal might come at me or what?
A little bit, like, not for me, but with the kids, I'm like, you know, they could kick them and that could really hurt, you know? So you do have to be careful about that kind of stuff. But for me, that's what I love. I love seeing things you can't see anywhere else. You know, going to the Southwest and seeing some of those crazy, weird mesas and the Painted Desert, which is part of the Petrified Forest National Park, which turns from purple to blue to red to orange. And then the petrified trees in Petrified Forest are they're trees laying on the ground. They're logs. Like, you would be like, it's just a tree that's hard, right? But those trees are 200 plus million years old. Like, dinosaurs rubbed against those trees. That's really cool to me. You know,
but I feel like that's a 5-minute excursion. Like, you look at the lay down tree, you go, a dinosaur rubbed against this. You go, nice. Let's go get a coffee. Like that.
I gotcha. I'm with you. See, and that's the thing about, so some parks like that, like, I wouldn't plan an entire vacation to visit the Petrified Forest National Park. It's a 1-day, sort of, maybe even a half-day drive through, get out and look at a few things. And that's what we did. So that's part of what's cool about what we're doing, is we can kind of go wherever. And when we're done with a place, we just move on, and we don't, you know, we don't feel like, okay, now what do we do next? And then we go to some places and we're like, well, I wish we had 2 more weeks here, because there's just so much to do, you know. And then you can do things recreational, like canoeing and going on rafting trips. And
that sounds terrifying to me.
And that's
I feel like I'm too large to get in a raft. Like, that shit's gonna tip over and I'm going to die. Like, that's what that feels like to me.
Oh no, it's fine. You have a helmet on.
Oh.
You can't die. You can't die with a helmet on. You could drown, but you're not going to smash your head on a rock, so you'll be fine.
Wonderful.
And a life jacket. So a lot of it is about recreation. A lot of it for people is about seeing stuff, but a lot of it's about those sorts of activities like rafting and mountain climbing and camping in the middle of nowhere, you know, with nobody around you.
That sounds terrifying. That sounds uncomfortable.
One of the things,
it sounds like,
you know, one of the first things when I got really far away from big cities, that really amazed me is the night sky.
Mm.
You know, anywhere in the East, even up at like up until you get to the first place I was really able to see the night sky was Voyageurs National Park, which is up in northern Minnesota, right on the Canadian border. And up there you are far enough away from cities, like you're 8 hours from Minneapolis, where the light pollution is just gone and you can see everything. Like you can see with your bare eye, you can see like a nebula, you can see planets, you know, and you can even up there, you can even see the northern lights in the middle of the night without having to go to Alaska. And that kind of stuff is the really cool experiences for me. Just stuff I haven't seen, you
And
know.
that's like the trade-off of like sleeping on the ground and like being eaten by bugs and stuff like that. Like that's the trade-off. Okay.
Yeah, it is. But that's why we live in an RV, because tent camping was fun for a few times, but it after a while, yeah, you're dealing with bugs and bathroom issues and all kinds of stuff, and you know, making your food outside and animals getting into your food and
yeah, like I was a
we're
Girl
over
Scout,
that.
and whenever we went like on a camp out overnight, it was like, this is terrible, and I can't wait to go home. I don't know why my parents are torturing me with this. Like, this is not only is there like animals and I'm sleeping on a rock, there's also like mean girls everywhere. Like it's the
Yeah.
Girl Scouts is the worst. Like I don't know.
So here's something else you might love about some national parks is some of them have really awesome lodges. So you can go and stay in a hotel in the middle of nowhere.
That's fun.
And you can, a lot of them, so Hot Springs National Park, for instance, if you're into like massages and stuff like that, Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas, like a lot of people are like, why would I ever go to Arkansas? But let me tell you, Arkansas is a beautiful state.
Yeah.
Really surprised the heck out of me. And Hot Springs National Park is a place where you can go and go to one of these bathhouses where they give you these
like
spa treatments.
Bathhouse?
Not that kind of bathhouse. they give you these spa treatments that they've been doing for 100 years with this hot spring water that comes from the ground naturally. Cool. And you can have all kinds of massage and stone with those hot stone treatments that they do in this sort of natural mineral spring water, and it's supposed to be really revitalizing, and a lot of famous celebrities have gone there over the years to have those sorts of treatments. There are just all kinds of weird parks that have weird stuff like that aren't your typical, okay, we're going to walk outside and see some scenery. And like I said, a lot of them have these cool resort towns with really nice hotels, really nice rental cabins and things like that. And then you can go like do zip lines and go-karting and all that sort of stuff nearby, you know. So if you're not outdoorsy, like, don't force yourself. Like, you're not gonna turn into a big national park person. It's not gonna happen, you know.
Fair.
But if you are a history person, which I am as well, there are a lot of really cool historic sites to see, of course, all over the country. You know, relating to our nation's history.
Do your kids? Obviously, they share an interest in that with you. Because if I took my kids to see the SNL museum exhibit, and they were like, "Can we go home?" I was like, "You know what? Yeah. This was a $20 ticket. You're gonna hold Wayne's World's guitar and let mommy take a picture." Like,
yeah, I mean, my kids are getting really into sort of the Native American and ancient stuff. And they weren't before, but that's sort of becoming kind of natural. We spent the whole winter basically in the Four Corners area, which is where Colorado, Utah, wait, let me get the states right. Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona all meet up, you know, right, at the Four Corners there. But that whole area around there is full of some of our country's most rich Native American history and a lot of historic sites where there are dwellings built into cliff walls and things like that. And the kids have been really getting into like pretending they're archaeologists and learning about sort of some of the history of that. Some things we'll go to and they'll be like, I hate this. This is boring. I don't want to do this. And we move on,
Yeah.
That's part of what's great to me about homeschooling is they don't have to know everything.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember everything you were taught in school? No, you probably remember 3% of it, as I do. I mean, you remember the stuff that was interesting to you.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it's more about finding the things that do interest them and pointing them towards getting really interested in those things. So we do that. So if they like something, we'll do more of it. And if they don't, we'll do less.
Right on. What about you though? Like, are you ever like, Daddy wants to look at the tree, so sit in the RV and we'll be done in a minute?
Dad likes to move on quickly too.
Yeah.
I want to see everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't need to see it forever. Mom is one of those people. If we go to like a museum or we're at a visitor center at a national park, Abby's one of those people that goes and reads every single plaque on the wall.
My husband does that.
In its entirety. So we'll often be waiting for her a little bit, but that's okay. She does enough that she deserves that that time to do that.
That's
so
excellently put.
We'll give her the freedom to do that, and we'll go outside and play.
So, as we kind of get down to winding down, do you have any dumb questions for me?
Oh my God. What let me relate it to this. Because it really does interest me that there is this big sort of divide between people that are like totally disinterested in nature. And I think that's totally fine and cool. And people that I think there are three types of people. There are people that are totally disinterested. There are people that are like, yeah, it's cool. I like to look at it quick and that's enough. I'm not going to be like some crazy John Muir living in the woods type person. But, and then there are those just sort of naturalholics. And I think I'm sort of between those last two. So, what do you love that is beautiful to see that is not nature?
Well, I'll say, I mean, there has been moments where, like, my in-laws are they're Irish immigrants, they're from Ireland, and they're so into scenery. They're constantly talking to me like, well, how can we go the most scenic route? Or what can we look scenery? And I'm always like,
Get me there as fast as I can.
Well, yeah. Can we get out of the goddamn car? Second of all, the kids aren't looking at the scenery. They're looking at their phones. And if we take the phones away, they're going to be real pissed at the scenery. Like, all of that. But there has been moments where, like, we've gone to experience something and I've went, oh my God. Like, the first thing I can think of is, like, when we went to Ireland to visit his family and we went to, the Quiet Man town. I think it's the cowboy movie that they filmed in Ireland. It's the whole.
They filmed a cowboy movie in Ireland?
Yeah, like a John Wayne movie, and I think it was called The Quiet Man or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And they.
I've never seen it.
That town, like. That they filmed it in that town because everything is like, would you like a John Wayne hat? Would you like a Quiet Man mug? Like that's, but I do remember we were in the car and we were driving into the town and I remember taking a breath because it was so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there have been moments where I've done something like that and been like, wow, like I can't believe this exists. This is awesome. But it's pretty fleeting. Like it happens and then I'm like, let's go to lunch. Like it's, I feel like I don't need to take it in. So like take it in, keep taking it in, keep going deeper in your soul with the beauty.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Like there's a National Park Service director of I believe he was the first National Park Service director of the Everglades in Florida. He called those breath-sucking moments.
Yeah.
And he said that's not what we're here for. Like,
Ah.
you know, their job is to protect the land and the ecosystem, and the fact that people go around and experience breath-sucking moments is cool, but that's not the point. But for me, that is the point. Like, I want those moments, and then I am cool. Like you said, I'm cool. I don't need to sit there, like, you know, sit there and stare at it forever.
Yes.
I'd rather go, but I would like to walk. Like, I want to walk it. Like, I want to keep. My interest is like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? I want to keep finding those things, instead of just staring at one.
Yeah, I see. Like my husband went to Alaska for like to do a show. He went to Alaska for like 5 days or something like that. And he came home with all these pictures of things that I think in the moment he was really like, oh my gosh. And I'm just looking at pictures and pictures of like waterfalls and trees and like frozen shit. And I'm like, oh, it's great, hun. Like, you know, it just doesn't, you had to be there. It doesn't translate. Also, do we have to keep every one of these pictures? Are we going to look back at them?
There are a lot of pictures. Yeah.
Well, it's also like you're not a photographer, so these aren't even nice pictures. They're like on your phone. They're kind of grainy. I don't know that you're ever going to look at this picture again. It's taking a broom on the iCloud like now. But so, or we went on a like a helicopter ride in Hawaii when we went to the Hawaii Improv Festival, and we did a helicopter ride. And I mean, he loved, and I like. There was moments like you got close to a waterfall, and it was like, oh, this is beautiful. Or like when we went snorkeling and we saw like a big sea turtle. It's like, oh my God, that's very cool. But then like for me, it's so fleeting. I'm like, let's go read a book like on the beach and like just, you know, but for him, he's like, let's take 500 pictures of the sea turtle because I'm never going to look at these again. And so that's where it's kind of our, like, you know, talking about the summer vacation. And he was like, why don't we drive? And I said, no one wants to be in the car. You are the only one that wants to sit in the car. Zero of the rest of us want to sit in the car.
I think I'm lucky because my wife and I sort of jive on the same wavelength with that. Like we're similar. Like we don't want to. We do all this traveling and tourism, and we talk about these places we see, but we also can't wait to get to a mall every now and then. Like we need civilization. We need a Starbucks. We need to experience a little bit of city life. Like when we went to Minneapolis, we literally went to the Mall of America. In the week we were there, we went to the Mall of America 4 times.
Of course.
You know, and we're in Oklahoma City right now, which is actually a really cool town with lots of awesome food options and things. And we're just sort of loving being able to go to museums and shop and things like that. And we can't be away from that sort of civilization for too long.
That's the thing too. Like me and my girls especially, like we dig a good science museum. Like we dig a good like the City Museum in St. Louis, like something you can like crawl around and things like that. It's just like sitting in the car for a long time, or like let's look at this nature, and you're like, this looks like the nature at the house, like this. So you drove me a long time in this car, and I'm just looking at nature, and it's nothing extraordinary nature, so I really don't care. Like I'll give you a $30 donation to make me not do this. How's that? So that's kind of where my family differs.
Yeah. You got to get out west, though. You got to get to the Southwest. Because here's the thing. It's the trees that are your issue. Because in the Midwest and in the East, everything is obscured by trees.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you get out to the Southwest where there are no trees, then you can see everything. And you don't, you know, you're not just like walking. Because you go through a trail, you go on a trail at like one of the Illinois state parks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to go see like a little canyon at the end of the trail. You're going to be walking through trees for like an hour and a half to get to it. And in the Southwest, usually you can just drive to everything,
Oh, okay.
you know?
And then we're in the car.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you get there in like 5 minutes instead
Sure.
of
Hours.
walking for an
Walking
hour
for
and a
hours
half
to
or two.
see
Yeah.
something like, oh, great. It's beautiful. Can we get back in the car? God.
The trade-off is there's long distances between where there are, towns,
Yeah.
gas stations, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
That's very cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to dig down?
no, I mean, just life doesn't have to be the everyday, going. I don't know that I know anybody anymore other than my parents that work like a regular full-time job and work 9 to 5 and come home and have 2 weeks off a year and that sort of thing. But life doesn't have to be the grind. There are other options out there. If that is burning you down, there are other things you do. You don't have to have. I mean, I think there are a lot of things about our life that might be interesting to lots of different people. And, I'm not going to say everything's rosy and perfect. It's not. But there are cool things about traveling full time. There are cool things about living in a minimalist way. I mean, we got rid of all of our stuff. What doesn't fit in a school bus, we don't have anymore, other than a little 5x5 storage unit that we still keep in Chicago that we have not been back to in a year and a half. So we're like, why do we have that stuff?
Mm.
You don't have to pay for things. You don't have to have things, and you can do experiences. So whether you're interested in nature and the outdoors or travel or whatever you might be interested in, you don't have to hold on to stuff. You can spend your money on having experiences in life.
Mm.
And I think for some people, if you like stuff, cool. But for some people, I think experiences might be more rewarding, and you don't have to do what everyone else does.
I love
So
that.
That's my thing.
I think that's awesome. I want to thank my guest, Jason Epperson, for joining me today. I will put a link to all of his podcasts and websites in the social comments. Please comment, and we will comment back. Make sure that you follow along with the hashtag Idiot Talk Show, and we will see you next time. Thanks for listening to Talk to Me Like I'm an Idiot. You can find us on all your favorite social channels at Idiot Talk Show. Make sure you subscribe anywhere that you get podcasts. And make sure you tell a friend. We can't grow without your love. Make a comment and we will definitely comment back. Have an awesome week, everybody.
I don't wanna be alone in this bed. Won't you give me something I can take apart? I don't wanna listen to the yelling in my head or the crying